The glittering facade of Forrester Creations has always masked a volatile undercurrent of familial strife and ruthless ambition, but the latest eruption of violence has shattered that fragile veneer completely. The pristine hallways of the legendary fashion house are now echoing with the undeniable sounds of a family tearing itself apart from the inside out. The inciting incident was not a boardroom disagreement or a stolen design, but a visceral, brutal act of physical violence. When Will Spencer unleashed his unbridled fury at the bikini bar, delivering a devastating and sickening punch directly to R.J. Forrester's gut, he did more than just inflict physical pain. He ignited a catastrophic chain reaction that is currently threatening to burn the entire Forrester legacy to the ground. The horrifying scene, witnessed in paralyzed terror by Melissa Dillon, stripped away the sophisticated glamour of their Los Angeles lifestyle, replacing it with raw, unrestrained aggression. In the immediate aftermath of the brutal assault, the severity of the situation became undeniably clear. Dr. Finn Finnegan's urgent medical examination yielded a grim diagnosis: bruised ribs for the young Forrester heir. Seeing her brother writhing in physical agony triggered a primal, fiercely protective instinct deep within Steffy, Forrester Finnegan. She is not merely a co-CEO, she is a sister who has watched her family endure countless attacks from external forces. The sight of RJ battered and broken by Spencer was the absolute final straw. Her transition from a deeply concerned sibling to a ruthless, uncompromising corporate executive was instantaneous and terrifying to behold. In Steffi's mind, the path forward was illuminated with absolute, blinding clarity. Will Spencer had to be immediately and unceremoniously terminated from his position at Forrester Creations. There was no room for debate, no space for negotiation, and certainly no capacity for mercy. Marching into the executive suite with the righteous fury of a woman defending her besieged fortress, Steffi laid down her absolute demand to Ridge Forrester. She presented the unassailable facts of the situation, fully expecting her father to match her outrage and immediately sign off on Will's termination. This was not a nuanced corporate dilemma. This was a clear-cut case of workplace violence perpetrated against a member of the founding family. Steffi anticipated a united front, a powerful demonstration of Forrester solidarity that would send an unequivocal message to anyone who dared to cross their bloodline. She expected Ridge to stand shoulder to shoulder with her, acting as the impenetrable shield and the ultimate enforcer of their family's honor. However, the response Steffi received from the patriarch of the Forrester family was not a resounding declaration of support, but an agonizing, suffocating hesitation. Ridge, trapped in a complex web of political calculus and historical entanglements, faltered. Instead of immediately prioritizing the safety and dignity of his assaulted son, Ridge began to weigh the broader corporate implications. His mind raced with the terrifying prospect of inciting the wrath of Bill Spencer, a man currently orchestrating a massive, hostile expansion of the rival Logan brand. Ridge desperately attempted to cling to his long-held, increasingly flawed philosophy of separating personal grievances from business operations. He argued for diplomacy, for de-escalation, and for maintaining a fragile, illusionary peace with the Spencer empire, completely failing to grasp the profound emotional devastation his hesitation was causing his daughter. For Steffi, Ridge's wavering was not just a difference of managerial opinion. It was a profound, soul-crushing betrayal. The psychological impact of watching her father prioritize the appeasement of Bill Spencer over the physical safety and emotional well-being of his own son was staggering. It felt as though a frozen dagger had been plunged directly into her back by the one man she believed would always protect their family unconditionally. Steffi's mind reeled with the historical weight of Ridge's wavering loyalties, his endless pattern of compromising Forrester integrity to appease the Logans and the Spencers. In this critical, defining moment, when the line between right and wrong was drawn in RJ's blood, Ridge was choosing the path of least resistance, effectively aligning himself with the enemy camp. The sheer hypocrisy of Ridge's stance infuriated Steffi to her very core. She vehemently dismantled his fragile logic, forcefully arguing the undeniable reality of workplace safety. How could Forrester Creations possibly maintain a shred of credibility or authority if they allowed an employee who committed a violent physical assault against the boss's son to remain on the payroll? What terrifying precedent did this set for the rest of the staff? Steffi painted a vivid, horrifying picture of a corporate environment where violence was tolerated as long as the perpetrator had the right last name or the right powerful connections. She demanded to know how Ridge could look himself in the mirror, let alone look RJ in the eye, while actively protecting the man who had brutally attacked him. As the argument raged within the executive office, the fundamental rift between father and daughter widened into an impassable chasm. Steffi's respect for Ridge as a leader, and perhaps even as a protector, began to rapidly disintegrate. She looked at the man who had built an empire and saw only weakness, a compromised patriarch paralyzed by the fear of external retaliation. This was not the decisive, commanding Ridge Forrester of legendary lore. This was a man willing to sacrifice his family's honor on the altar of corporate appeasement. The realization that she was standing entirely alone in her defense of the Forrester name washed over Steffi with a chilling, isolating finality. If her father lacked the spine to protect their own, she would have to assume the mantle of leadership entirely by herself. Pushed to the absolute brink by Ridge's agonizing cowardice, Steffi unleashed her ultimate threat, wielding her co-CEO authority like a drawn sword. If Ridge refused to pull the trigger, she declared with icy, unwavering resolve, she would execute the termination unilaterally. She boldly threatened to bypass his authority entirely, invoking her executive power to physically and professionally remove Will Spencer from the building. This was a declaration of internal corporate war, a constitutional crisis within the highest echelon of Forrester Creations. Steffi was making it abundantly clear that she would not allow her father's weakness to dictate the safety of her brother or the integrity of her grandfather's legacy, even if it meant tearing their working relationship apart at the seams. Steffi's desperate, aggressive stance cannot be fully understood without acknowledging the broader, terrifying context of the current corporate landscape. She is operating under the crushing weight of a multi-front siege. The Spencer and Logan alliance is rapidly metastasizing into an existential threat to Forrester Creations. Hope Logan Spencer's shocking, secretive defection to the rival brand has already inflicted massive psychological and professional damage. Katie and Bill's debut collection, shamelessly utilizing Eric Forster's visionary designs, is currently dominating global billboards, mocking the Forrester legacy. In the midst of this overwhelming invasion, Steffi feels like the sole, isolated warrior desperately trying to hold the gates against an overwhelming, encroaching army. The looming, oppressive shadow of Bill Spencer falls heavily over every agonizing second of Ridge's hesitation, and Steffi is acutely, painfully aware of it. She sees exactly how Bill's ruthless reputation is dictating Forrester policy from afar. The recent, highly publicized return of Wyatt Spencer to Los Angeles, specifically recruited to spearhead the Logan brand's hostile expansion, has only amplified the threat level. Steffi views Ridge's refusal to fire Will as a pathetic capitulation to Bill's intimidation tactics, a preemptive surrender in a war that has only just begun. She refuses to allow Forrester Creations to be held hostage by the fear of a Spencer temper tantrum, viewing her father's diplomacy as nothing short of treasonous cowardice. The psychological toll of this profound isolation is beginning to heavily weigh on Steffi's shoulders. Los Angeles is currently a city divided, a glamorous battlefield where the absolute dominance of Forrester Creations is being ruthlessly challenged by the rapidly expanding Logan empire. Bill Spencer has officially declared an all-out corporate war, and with the shocking return of his highly cunning son, Wyatt Spencer, the stakes have never been higher. Wyatt has arrived in town with a fierce determination to help his father conquer the fashion industry, bringing with him a wave of strategic maneuvers that threaten to destabilize the very foundation of the Forrester legacy. At the epicenter of this cataclysmic corporate earthquake stands Steffy Forrester Finnegan. Steffy is currently fighting a brutal, multi-front war, desperately trying to hold her family's empire together in the wake of Hope Logan's bitter, highly publicized defection to the Logan brand. The pressure on Steffy is astronomical, her every waking moment consumed by the need to outmaneuver the Spencers and the Logans while maintaining Forrester's prestigious reputation. It is within this suffocating atmosphere of intense corporate warfare and bitter family rivalries that Taylor Hayes has made her highly anticipated return to the canvas. Taylor has always been the emotional anchor for her children, a fiercely protective matriarch who possesses an uncanny ability to read the intricate psychological dynamics of those around her. Upon her return, Taylor has already demonstrated a profound new perspective on the toxic, deeply entrenched rivalries that define the Forrester and Logan families. She has watched with a mixture of analytical detachment and genuine pity as Brooke Logan and Hope navigate their dysfunctional relationship, recognizing the insidious entitlement that plagues them. However, Taylor's primary focus remains entirely on her daughter. She sees the immense burden Steffy is carrying, the sheer exhaustion masked by fierce corporate defiance. Taylor knows that Steffy is standing on the precipice of a breakdown, holding the Forrester legacy entirely on her own shoulders. But fate, in its infinite and unfathomable cruelty, has delivered a devastating blow that threatens to shatter Taylor's world and, by extension, the entire Forrester family. In a shocking and utterly heartbreaking twist, Taylor Hayes has recently received a catastrophic medical diagnosis: end-stage heart failure. The world-renowned psychiatrist, a woman who has spent her entire life healing the minds and emotional wounds of others, is now facing an incurable, terminal betrayal of her own physical body. The prognosis is grim, terrifyingly absolute, and completely devoid of hope. The medical professionals have given her mere months to live. For Taylor, the sterile, clinical words of her doctor felt like a physical blow, a deafening death knell that instantly rendered the surrounding corporate drama entirely meaningless. The heart that has loved Ridge Forrester so deeply, the heart that has fiercely protected Steffy and Thomas through countless tragedies, is now failing her, ticking down to an inevitable and tragic silence. Confronted with this unimaginable reality, Taylor makes a decision that is as heartbreaking as it is profoundly characteristic of her deeply maternal nature. Instead of seeking the comfort, sympathy, and emotional support of her family, Taylor chooses the path of absolute, agonizing silence. She looks at Steffy, witnessing her daughter's relentless battle against the encroaching Logan empire, the venomous media fallout from Hope's defection, and the ruthless corporate strategies of Bill and Wyatt Spencer. Taylor knows with absolute certainty that if she reveals her terminal diagnosis, Steffy will immediately drop everything. Steffy would abandon the company, surrender the corporate war to the Logans, and allow the Forrester legacy to crumble, all to spend her final months agonizing over her dying mother. Taylor, driven by a fierce, self-sacrificing love, refuses to be the reason her daughter loses the empire she has fought so hard to protect. She resolves to carry this fatal burden entirely alone. The psychological and physical toll of this massive, suffocating secret is unfathomable. Taylor begins to live a terrifying double life within the glamorous, bustling corridors of Forrester Creations. Outwardly, she projects the image of the serene, supportive matriarch, offering sage advice and a calming presence to Ridge and Steffy as they navigate the treacherous waters of the fashion industry. But inwardly, she is a woman walking on a razor's edge, haunted by the ever-present specter of her impending mortality. The physical symptoms of her failing heart are becoming increasingly impossible to ignore. She endures severe, crippling angina attacks, her chest tightening with an agonizing pressure that steals her breath and leaves her dizzy with blinding pain. Yet, she forces herself to smile, through the agony, gripping the edges of desks and hiding behind closed doors until the terrifying episodes pass, terrified that a single moment of weakness will expose her devastating truth. As the days turn into weeks, Taylor begins to feel like a ghost haunting the halls of the company she once helped build. She watches the petty squabbles, the intense boardroom negotiations, and the bitter personal vendettas with a profound sense of tragic irony. While Brooke schemes for power and Hope plots her revenge with the Logans, Taylor is quietly, slowly dying in plain sight. Every conversation with Steffy becomes a bittersweet torture, a desperate attempt to memorize the sound of her daughter's voice and the fierce determination in her eyes. Taylor's internal monologue is a constant, heartbreaking prayer for more time, not for herself, but to ensure that Steffy is secure, that the Forrester family is safe before she is forced to say her final, agonizing goodbye. The sheer weight of this emotional isolation is staggering, yet her resolve to protect her daughter remains unbroken. However, the fragile human body can only endure so much trauma before it inevitably rebels against the mind's iron will. The breaking point arrives on a day fraught with corporate tension, as the war with the Logan brand reaches a fever pitch and Wyatt Spencer's aggressive tactics put Forrester on the defensive. Taylor, seeking a momentary refuge from the chaotic energy of the executive suites, retreats to a quiet, secluded office to catch her breath. Suddenly, a massive, overwhelming wave of pain crashes over her. This is not just another passing bout of angina. This is a severe, debilitating cardiac event. The pain radiates through her chest and down her arm, a crushing, suffocating agony that forces her to her knees. She gasps for air, her vision blurring at the edges as the room spins wildly around her. She tries to reach for her phone, to call for help, but her strength completely evaporates. With a final, desperate thought of her children, Taylor collapses onto the floor, slipping into a terrifying, dark unconsciousness. It is in this moment of absolute vulnerability that fate intervenes once again, introducing an entirely unexpected variable into Taylor's tragic equation. The door to the office opens, and Dr. Lee Finnegan steps inside. Lee, the formidable, fiercely independent mother of Dr. John Finnegan, is a woman who has often found herself at odds with the Forrester family. The historical friction between Lee and the Forresters, particularly regarding her son's marriage to Steffy and the lingering trauma of Sheila Carter, has always created an underlying tension. Yet, beneath her stern, uncompromising exterior, Lee is a brilliant, highly trained medical professional with razor-sharp instincts. The moment her eyes land on Taylor's lifeless body crumpled on the office floor, all personal animosity instantly vanishes, replaced by pure, adrenaline-fueled medical urgency. Lee rushes to Taylor's side, her experienced hands immediately checking for a pulse and assessing her vital signs. She recognizes the undeniable, terrifying symptoms of a severe cardiac crisis. With swift, practiced precision, Lee stabilizes Taylor, utilizing her extensive medical knowledge to bring the Forrester matriarch back from the brink of tragedy. As Taylor slowly, agonizingly regains consciousness, her eyes fluttering open to meet Lee's intense, focused gaze, the reality of her exposure sets in. Lee's medical assessment is immediate and uncompromising. She knows exactly what she is looking at. She can see the profound physical deterioration, the unmistakable signs of a heart that is rapidly reaching the end of its functional life. There is no hiding the truth from a doctor of Lee's caliber, and Taylor knows her secret is unraveling. The confrontation that follows is one of the most raw, emotionally charged moments in recent memory. Lee, demanding answers with her trademark fierce authority, insists on knowing the full extent of Taylor's medical condition. Stripped of her pride, her defenses completely shattered by the physical collapse, Taylor finally breaks down. In a moment of profound, heartbreaking vulnerability, she confesses the devastating truth. She is an end-stage heart failure, and she only has a few short months left to live. The revelation hangs in the air, a heavy, suffocating truth that completely alters the dynamic between these two powerful women. Lee, a woman who has fiercely protected her own son from death, is visibly stunned by the magnitude of Taylor's